Hello, everyone. Welcome and good morning. My name is Rina Alexin, and I'm the CEO of 280 Group. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today, we'll be discussing part 2 of our webinar series on cultivating a strategic product team. We'll be talking about how to elevate your executive gate reviews. And I'm so excited to introduce Ken Feehan, our principal consultant and trainer at 280 Group. Ken, why don't you tell our listeners a little about yourself?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Ken Feehan. I'm a principal consultant with the 280 Group. That means I do training and consulting. I have 25 years of product management and product marketing experience at companies like Apple, Intuit, and Dolby, and a countless group of startups.
Thank you, Ken, so much for being here today. I'm so excited to be doing this webinar with you. We're going to be doing things a little differently. And we used to do something like this on the road, didn't we?
Yes, we do. I brought you in a couple of client meetings where we actually do workshops around this gate exercise and this one-page exercise. And I bring you in order to educate the executives about how to play their role on this, what kinds of questions they can ask and what questions are strategically important. And you are fabulous at that. So it's fun to do this for you in this environment too.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to be bringing this gate review workshop to our listeners. But first, before we get into the heart of the presentation, let's go over a few housekeeping items. After this webinar, continue to stay engaged with your peers by joining our Product Leader LinkedIn group. We'll be pasting a link for you to do so shortly in the chat. Use this as a forum to share best practices and tips with your peers. At 280 Group, we love interacting with you, and during this webinar, we really encourage you to ask questions and give us feedback. You can use the questions box on the right of your screen to type in questions or comments at any time. We will, of course, leave time for Q&A at the end of the webinar. And first, I'd like to answer our most popular question, which is, can I watch this later? And yes, of course you can. All attendees will be receiving a link to the recording after the webinar has ended. Before we begin, I'll take a minute just to introduce what 280 Group is all about. At 280 Group, our mission is to empower product professionals with the knowledge and tools to build products that matter. And unlike other companies, we're focused on the needs of all product professionals. So whether you need help as an individual growing your skills and knowledge to advance your career, or you're a product leader interested in improving the success of your product team, we're really here to help, including from our flagship training courses and curriculum to custom workshops like the Gate Review. Check us out at 280group.com. Now, Ken, let's get into the meat of the webinar. Take it away.
Fantastic, Rina. Thank you very, very much here. This is the second of a two-part series of things that I've worked on the internet in terms of a gate review and one-pagers. In May of 2020, we did an exercise where we built one-pagers and built roadmaps for product lines. We will provide a link to that webinar in case you would like to go back and review that later. But we'll quickly summarize what's happened today before we jump into part 2, which is today's content. The idea behind this gate review process was first exposed to me when I worked at a company called ELO. No, not the band, a touchscreen company out of Silicon Valley. They were a hardware and software company, and the CEO came to the organization with a strong executive leadership product management function that they called gate review. And it was executive friendly, and it put product managers on the spot, and we made great products from it. This gate review process is not exactly the gate review process that we used at ELO, although we've made some great improvements upon it. It was a great process early on. So got to give some credit to that, finding that into the situations here. This gate review process, as we covered quickly in the webinar in May, focused upon product managements that are driving outcomes of their particular business, not necessarily just outputs. So we're driving towards how you can use your product strategy to grow business and revenues in the situations here. So we'll talk about outcomes and use that in this example to see what's happening here. We want to potentially use this outcome process because not only does it drive us to do good business, but it also involves the other organizations organizations in the projects of actually increasing this revenue. You can't grow a business without marketing participating. You can't grow a $10 million business without the sales or the finance organization. We want to spread the role of product management from just being a development mouthpiece to being a structure where the product management team is running cross-functional strategic relationships and organizations of what's happening at the company. And that's covered very clearly inside of the first webinar here. But first up, we have a poll that we would like you to take on here. In just 1 second, you will get a chance to answer this particular poll here. And it's a personal question to you. In your job that you're working on today, are you measured, are you promoted, are you reviewed based upon outcomes, strategically growing the business, or outputs, shipping a product on time? I've got an opportunity for an outcome answer, an output question, or maybe this topic isn't that familiar with you and you want to know more about it. So we've got 3 answers for this particular one. We've got those answers rolling in here.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So the poll is now launched. So if you can quickly vote so that we can find out whether or not you are being judged on being strategic or on shipping the next thing. And this is something that we have polled many leaders for, to get a sense of how are leaders thinking about their teams, right? How are you measuring the success of your product management team? So votes are coming in. I'll leave this open just for a few more seconds. All right. So,
excellent. Rina, do you mind if I proceed, or I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, please proceed. And do you want me to share the results of the poll?
Oh, sure, that would be great. Sorry, yes.
So this is actually very in line with other data that we've seen, and unfortunately so a little bit, because we have only 53% of votes coming in for outcomes, 43% are on outputs, and 4% still need more info.
Excellent, fantastic. We're going to help in this webinar. We're going to help drive you more towards the outcomes. So that's fantastic, and it's good to hear that as many people are driving towards outcomes. This is a big trend, a big advancement for product management. Okay, quickly want to get back on schedule here. Want to get back to. I'm just going to go over a couple of slides about the foundation for this particular exercise. To make a long story short, in May we introduced the idea that product management should be looking towards the leadership team or the executive team for what's the organization trying to accomplish in the year. In this point, the LT team has stated that they're trying to grow revenues by 25%, reduce churn, expand in the European marketplace, and make the products easier to sell. This is the important input for product management. This is the things that we want to structure the product management strategy around. We take those high-level goals from the executives and we turn them into product features, and we organize those features into releases. All of this is covered in the previous webinar, which we'll provide you with a link on, but we've got a formula for helping you do that. And then we help take a roadmap of the annual purpose of the year, and if you're agile, you have sprint releases that are happening regularly in that particular process, and we talk about how important it is as a product manager to bundle up multiple work that's happening in different sprints and to make news about them. So to take the work that's being done in sprints 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 and create a newsworthy press release and go-to-market strategy around the collection of those items and calling it a product release, such as Unicorn 1.2. Again, this is covered well in the initial webinar, and it is the foundation for the things that we're talking about today. Next up is when you have a product release on your roadmap here, we like to have you build a product one-pager around what you're trying to accomplish with that particular structure here. We cover this in May, lots of detail on here. On the left side of your slide is the problem. We capture the problem that we're trying to address. On the right side are project boundaries and the strategic aspect of what it is that we're going on here. This one-page strategy replaces lots of long, complex documents and really articulates the vision for what it is that you're trying to accomplish from a product strategy. So that is what we've covered so far. That is available in the previous webinar. Let's now take our roadmaps and let's take our product one-pagers and actually put them through the process of doing a gate review. An executive gate review is typically a twice monthly meeting that runs about 60 minutes inside of a company. Longer gate review meetings are not better than shorter gate review meetings. You want them to be highly structured and highly quickly. Your audience here is executives. You want the executives to be satisfied and look forward to this particular meeting. When your gate review process are working well, you're driving towards outcomes, not outputs. It's not a status meeting about how project 1.3 is doing. It's the how are we doing generating $10 million million from that new initiative here. And lastly, the gate review process naturally builds unity among the organization to make sure that everyone is working towards the eventual goal. It's a consensus builder to make sure the marketing team is doing the right things, the digital marketing team is doing the right teams, the product team is doing the right teams, et cetera. We build consensus around that and get everyone involved.
And Ken, when we are on the road and we're talking to executives and we're bringing forth this concept, this is really about adding this governance layer that helps you know that your team is aligned to the most important strategic goals in your company. So that's really at the core of what we are trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well said. Thank you very much, Rina. There's 4 constituents that we'll talk about here. One of which is there's an executive board. There's a role for product management and the presenters of this particular process. There's the gatekeeper and there's the audience. Let's talk about a little bit about what each of those teams do. We want the executives to be representative of the organizations of the company that are involved in accomplishing the outcome. So we're going to potentially propose that marketing is there, sales VPs are there, finance VPs are there, product people and development people. We need a cross-functional organization. If they're involved in accomplishing the outcome of this, of generating $10 million or signing up this many leads, we want them to have a vote in the strategy. So we want them involved in the executive review board. Next up is we bring the product manager in. The product manager, generally speaking, is the person who does the presentation at these meetings and prepares the one-pagers and is on the hot seat for this. And because we want to make sure that that product manager is operating within the boundaries of the organization, we actually ask the product manager's next line manager to sit next to them and to answer questions at this particular structure here, making sure that the product manager is in sync with his management structures is a best practice. Next up, we've got a role for something called a gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is a senior, non-involved individual who is meticulous about running this meeting efficiently. Having a gate review process without a strategic and well-informed gatekeeper is a very challenging process because the process tends to fall apart. But with a gatekeeper doing the rules that we'll explain in just 1 minute here, this meeting becomes very efficient and effective. And then lastly, we have an audience for the gate review meeting, and the audience generally is comprised of product managers from the organization who are likely to go in front of the gate at some future point. We like to get product managers and the direct reports of the VPs into the audience of this particular meeting because what we want to have happen is that the lessons learned, the questions that the executive asks are things that we want the executives to only have to do once, and then they become common knowledge about what's expected of them in the future. So if a product manager learns a lesson at a gate review meeting, we want to make sure that there's lots of eyes on that particular process so that that mistake is only made once and that the executives don't have to sit through those particular problems on a regular basis. At ELO, this was the meeting to be in. If you wanted to be seen, if you wanted to be involved in the strategy, you were fighting your way to get inside of this particular gate review meeting.
So Ken, for the clients that we've worked with where they really adopted this process, it really required the VPs to be present at every meeting. If they missed one, of course, they could send their director or proxy, but how do you, if you are working at an organization that currently does not run this as a process, does not have a really strong governance model, how do you make the case to have all this time from executives?
Well, first of all, I explained that it's not like any other meeting that the VP of Sales or the VP of Marketing has been to. This is not a status update meeting where each project owner or product manager comes up and explains what's happening in the particular business. We explain to those vice presidents the structure and the organization around the product one-pager and how this is a meeting where the product manager comes in and only communicates deep information upon questioning, but that the one-pager does most of the lifting. Secondly is that we go back to those VP of sales, VPs of marketings, people that are not used to working generally with the development process, and we say this isn't about development, this is about a commitment by the company to make a product successful in the marketplace in the next year, and getting marketing, getting sales, getting finance involved in those meetings is a natural part because we need to work together as a team in order to accomplish these hard goals.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. This gate review process is done multiple times during the development of a particular product. The 280 group uses something called the optimal product process, which has 7 phases to it: conceive, plan, develop, qualify, launch, maximize, and retire. And we would recommend that a product manager present their one page or present their status at each gate review process. As they're looking to move from plan to develop, they would have a gate review presentation. As they were looking from from qualify to launch, they would present to the staff meeting here. And if you're thinking this is a long and drawn out meeting here, I promise you that these gate review processes for the product manager should take no more than 5 minutes apiece. We'll do 4 of them in this particular hour process to see what's happening here. But we want to do that. There is an exception. Conceive is unique. Conceive does not require a one pager. It is not a normal process. There's a lighter process for conceive, but for plan, develop, qualify, launch, maximize, and retire, it's a full-fledged gate review process and one pager process. We'll talk about conceive as we do the example. Sometimes projects are not linear. Sometimes they don't progress smoothly. Sometimes things change during them. If your project goes quote, quote, out of bounds, if it bumps into some kinds of the market changed or the development team ran into some obstacle that's going to be out here, from time to time, you're going to be out of bounds. The things that you've committed in previous gate review processes will need to change. There's a process where if you are out of bounds on your project, you will go to and get an agenda item on the next gate review meeting here. So there is a process for projects that are non-linear in nature in order to come happen here. We also have an example of an out of bounds example that we'll do for you in just a minute. And then again, we live in an uncertain world. This is not about product managers succeeding or failure. Being out of bounds is not something for a product manager or product team to be embarrassed about. It is about being truthful, being honest, and being a truth teller, which we'll also talk about. Gate review processes are simple. The gatekeeper introduces the product. They ship out an agenda and then they introduce a particular product. The product manager does a brief presentation and asks for something from the team. I asked to move to the next gate. I asked to get to have these new boundaries set up. There's always a specific ask for product managers, and then we let the executives do a Q&A process. At the end of the Q&A process, in under 5 minutes, generally, the gatekeeper will ask for a yes or no vote, and projects that are voted on unanimously as yes will proceed. Couple of last minute gate reviews before we get into our exercise here is VPs have an incentive to attend. If they don't attend, it's difficult for them to vote on a particular process. So we promise we'll make the meeting efficient, we'll make it brief, we'll work hard to make it work, and in exchange for them, we'll count their vote. Voting must be unanimous in order for your product to be approvable. This sometimes sounds interesting and funny to companies that we work with, but imagine the situations where you're spending $5 million developing a new project and you want to turn that into revenue, and the finance person agrees to it, the marketing agrees to it, development agrees to it, product agrees to it, and the CEO agrees to it, but the VP of sales won't put resources behind it. The gate review process is meant to capture that and to make sure that there's unanimous support for that particular project. Otherwise, you're going to spend all of this money and not getting reward from it. So we've got a process. Voting must be unanimous. If it's not, the executives have to go into the coffee room and figure it out. But we have to get unanimous support for these particular projects. It's one of the most interesting aspects of the gate review process. The product one-pagers have boundaries on it. Product managers can't lackadaisically change these boundaries. The process of changing a forecast or changing an intro date is a formal review process. If you change anything on your gate review process, you need to go back to the gate review process and ask for permission. And we don't encourage that. That's not a good thing. Stay on board. The gate review process is meant to cover the majority of the development resources and the development resources at a company. It's not meant to cover all of them. There will always be a budget for maintenance projects and for emergency kinds of projects here. We're not trying to put 100% of the projects under gate review, but we are looking to put something along the lines of 80%.
So again, this is around getting strategic alignment for your most important priorities. I know we're going quickly through a lot of content here, but at the core of it, your VPs need to be committed because they're committed resources, and they need to be there so that they can really move your product along.
Fantastic, thank you. Tips for your executives before we get into this particular review process. If you're getting ready to present and you're worried about the executives are very likely going to ask you, how your product that you're presenting is directly related back to corporate priorities. So how, if your corporate priorities are to raise revenues by 25% and reduce churn, et cetera, they're going to ask questions. How does the product in front of me accomplish the kinds of goals that we're going for? And if it's not strong enough, why not? So just recognize you'll be hit with that on a regular basis. Understand what you are committing to your team. If you're VP of sales and you're voting yes on a particular project, it means that you are going to support the sales aspect of that product in the particular marketplace. If you're marketing, it means you're probably allocating budget dollars and people in order to accomplish this particular goal. This is not just voting to develop something, this is voting to make this happen inside the marketplace. You're not just getting anything from the product team. It's VP of sales frequently inside of gate reviews stand up and say, this is all I'm getting next year. I'm supposed to raise revenues 25% and this is all I'm getting. That's a normal process here. The VP of sales is supposed to pound on the tables from now and then and ask for more. This is healthy to see what's happening here. But recognize that if they're voting on something, it means that this is it. This is all they're getting. They're not getting anything else. There's no projects around the corner that are going to come and help make the forecast here. Lastly is executives should not tolerate unprepared product managers or timid gatekeepers. If you are not ready to be inside of this meeting, you can expect an executive grilling. We want that to happen. We want product managers that are on top of their games. We want executives expecting fast, brief presentations to see what's happening.
Ken, in the previous slide, you noticed you made a point around it needing to be unanimous and that the executives need to be aligned. What do you tell product managers who have maybe an issue where there's an executive playing a lot of politics, really trying to move only things that affect sales across, for example?
Well, so if we have a situations where there's a common blockage in the process, all projects are getting turned down unless they have, revenue that's come due in the next 3 months. That is an unfortunate process. We want to kind of avoid that situation, but Rome was not built by being hand to mouth in the process here. We are looking to set the table to have large, successful products in the particular future here, and we need to make investments in tech debt to be able to get to the point where we have a robust product line in the future. We need products that are coming out in 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months process here. If the sales team is being too short-sighted as a product manager, I probably need to spend some time with that person, with the VP of product, going over meeting with the sales team, putting in light and showing the plans for how this needs to roll out here. As a product person, you're not just thinking in 3 months and 6 months increments. We're making large investments here. And if I see that developing as a product leader in my company, I grab the product manager and we go sit down and talk with the associated people here. There's plenty of time to do that.
That's right. And it's also another opportunity for you to use this forum as a way to communicate what are all of the strategic priorities of the company. It's not just one, right? So it gets your executives also aligned.
Yeah, exactly. Also, at these gatekeeper meetings, at these gate review meetings, it's also very easy to bring up a product roadmap for the next 18 months and talk about it and put it into context about the projects that are going on here. So I'm a big fan of that. The plan of record does include roadmaps, which can be easily brought up. Okay, kind of a couple of last tips before we go into the stipulation here. This is the role of the gatekeeper, which the gatekeeper is critical to making this successful. No one presents to the executives unless they do a rehearsal with slides, with one-pagers, 72 hours before the meeting to the gatekeeper. There's no exceptions. If you miss this window, you will be put on the agenda for the next executive review process. For the first couple of meetings, this seems really brutal. Okay, but if the product team begins to abide by these particular plans, begins to think in advance about what has to happen, this becomes key to having efficient executive-friendly meetings here. So again, it's hard at first, but eventually it becomes a kind of a given to see what's happening here. Okay, so the gatekeeper knows what's coming. They've seen the presentation 72 hours in advance. They've received updated one-pagers. 24 hours before the meeting, they post the agenda for the meeting and publish all appropriate documents. That usually means that they publish the updated one-pagers. They updated exactly what kind of processes will be in front of this. This means the executives have access to the printed materials 24 hours before the meeting and can read them. Next up, after the meeting, the gatekeeper publishes meeting minutes. The gatekeeper publishes a table that we'll show in a few minutes. They publish the new updated meeting minutes, and they make a new plan of record for the company at the end of each particular meeting. And then lastly, is gatekeepers aren't terribly accommodating to product managers that are not following these particular rules here. The gatekeeper is not your friend. The gatekeeper is not here to accommodate your lateness. If we run this kind of strategically, this actually changes our behaviors as product managers and make us more responsible to executives, which will get us promoted over time. Okay, we are about to sit and do a simulation of 4 projects put through a gate review process. In this particular process, we are going to make this a little bit fun and a little bit different, and that is we are going to put projects through and have an executive review board. On the executive review board will be our acting VP of sales, which is Rina, and our VP of marketing, which happens to be Roger. Roger is very good at this role. Ken, Len, Ben, and Zen will be the person who does the presentation and act the role of the product manager. And Nicole from our office will be our gatekeeper. And then lastly, it will be helpful for you to hear a couple of different voices. So we've asked Jake to be our narrator. Narrator Jake will set this particular up. To see what's happening here, we have 4 items on the agenda, and this is a good time to hand the slide over to our narrator.
Right, thanks, Ken. I'll be your gate review guide today, and I'd like to kick off today's mock gate review. As Ken described earlier, there are 4 groups of attendees today. So group 1, we've got executives from around the company are here. Rina is playing the role of VP of sales, and Roger's playing the role of VP of marketing. These are the 2 active roles that we'll focus on today. There are 4 product managers here. Their names all sound very similar, and hopefully that won't be too confusing. But they'll discuss our products and initiatives. Our gatekeeper Nicole is here to run the meeting and be meticulous about it, as Ken described. And then we've got other partner PMs from around the company are here in the audience. As I mentioned, Ken, Len, Ben, and Zen will present 4 unique products at today's gate review. Again, they all might sound like Ken, but these products are unique in their own way. And so when I say action, we will start the mock gate review, right? Action.
Okay, team, I'm Nicole, your gatekeeper, and I welcome you to the gate review meeting for August 12th, 2021. We have 4 projects to review on the agenda today: Unicorn version 1.3, Big Dog version 1.1, Blue MVP, and database upgrade. I would like to remind everyone that the one-pagers and roadmaps for the agenda items were emailed to you at noon yesterday. You have had a chance to review the materials provided. Product managers, please keep in mind that the executives are familiar with your content, so you must keep your presentation brief. First up is Product Manager Ken presenting Unicorn version 1.3. Ken, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gatekeeper. Good morning. I'm here today representing a project called Unicorn version 1.3, and I'm looking to advance this project from the develop phase into the launch phase. Before you is the product one-pager for Unicorn. Specifically, on the right-hand side are the boundaries for this particular project. This project is inbounds for these 4 strategic metrics, and the introduction date and the KPRs are all stated, and they are all consistent with what you've seen before. We've received solid feedback from the field and from our beta customers, and I ask that we proceed into the launch phase of this particular project.
Okay, the product manager has presented the project and is asked to proceed. Before we vote, I ask if there are any questions about Unicorn version 1.3.
Yeah, I have a question. Where is the sales forecast for this? I mean, this is just a little feature. It's not going to help us achieve our revenue goals for fiscal year 2022.
Thank you for your question, VP of Sales here. I'd like to point out that we've been consistent with the goals for Project Unicorn version 1.3, and version 1.3 is specifically designed to address churn. So it's specifically addressed towards reducing the number of signed customers who renew with this particular product. This is not about increase in sales, and that has been the case since we've done conceived versions for this particular product. So this product is about reducing churn. It's not about increasing sales.
All right, Ken, so it's going to reduce churn, which I interpret to mean we're going to keep customers more effectively as a result of this release. Is that right?
Yeah, we are forecasting to hold on to 1,000 more users than would have been forecasted without Project Unicorn.
Okay, all right, that's pretty good. How are we going to get the word out to our current customers?
Excellent. Thank you very much, VP of Marketing. Roger, I have been working with just a fantastic team member. Her name is Nadia, and she is your Director of Marketing. And together, she has built up a plan about going to Marketplace, and we have this entire plan going on here. We had planned to meet with you yesterday. We were on your agenda for yesterday to go over this particular plan so that you could have final say, but you asked us to move the meeting. So I understand your question today that you haven't seen the plans, but we are scheduled. Nadia and I will meet with you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning as per the agenda item, and we will go over the plan. And I think that you will like what you say. It was developed by someone on your team.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I look forward to that meeting then. Thanks.
All right, any more questions? If not, let's move forward with the vote. Sales, how do you vote?
It's a yes from me.
Marketing?
Yes.
Development?
Yes.
Finance?
Yes.
Product VP?
Yes.
Okay, I see that we have 6 yes votes. Project Unicorn version 1.1 is advanced through the launch gate. That completes the first item on our agenda. Let's move to the second. The next item is Product Manager Len presenting Big Dog version 1.1. This is an out-of-bounds review. Len, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm here today to report that Project Big Dog version 1.1 has gone out of bounds. We were here only 4 weeks ago and we advanced from the develop phase. And since that time, it has become obvious that we'll be missing the launch date due to some unexpected issues related to the development of this particular process. The team and I have studied the issue and we proposed a solution. We ask that you accept the following changes to the project boundaries. We ask that you move the intro date from March 1st to June 1st of 2022, and that we increase the marketing budget by $200,000 to help us generate sales faster in order to stay in bounds on the forecast for FY22 for this particular product. Based upon this work where we considered many alternatives and came up with this best option, I ask that you accept these new boundaries and bring the project back in bounds.
All right, so everybody knows, Len and my direct reports have been working on this issue, and we did find $200,000 to add to this particular project from our other marketing funds. But I gotta say, I'm still worried about this project. I mean, Big Dog 1.1 never had a big forecast. It's kind of a small forecast. And we've also heard some new priorities from our customers. So this might not make sense for us to advance at this point. VP of Sales, we can't hear you.
I turn my mic on. So 30 days ago, you stood in front of us and you said that this was going to be in bounds. And now we're slipping by 90 days. What the heck is going on?
Len, looking at his shoes sheepishly, yes, I did report in the last gate review project that we were on schedule, and this was the best information that I had and the development team had at the time. But once the team started developing, we saw that the estimates were too low, specifically in the area of developing private APIs. They're giving us a little bit more trouble than we expected. And also security has become a big issue with the company lately, and we have additional requirements for security. I'm very sorry that we did this, but I would like to remind you that we did this on good faith estimates to see what's happening here, and we are being honest and open about this, and we believe that this is the best way to get Big Dog back on schedule in process, and I ask for your vote.
Okay, if there are no more questions, let's vote on accepting the new boundaries for Big Dog 1.1. VP of Sales, how do you vote?
It's a no.
Marketing?
Now, I got to say, based on the fact that we have to pump another 200,000 into the budget, and we're not getting any more out of the revenue forecast with a lower ROI, I vote no.
Development?
Yeah, on behalf of development, finance, and product, I'm a yes.
Okay, with 2 no votes, Big Dog 1.1 is no longer a priority. Please reallocate the teams by Monday.
Right. So despite the outcome, this is likely to be a good thing for our company. Like, we need to reprioritize and reallocate these front end and back end engineers for some more new, recently approved higher priority projects.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Ben presenting Blue MVP as a conceive item. Remember, conceive ideas require only a well-formed hypothesis. Ben, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm here today to present an idea that several of us have been kicking around. We believe strongly that we can generate $100,000 in incremental revenue in FY22 and have 10,000 daily users if we develop a mobile app that's attached with product line B. I ask today that you accept this conceive idea and allow us to progress into the plan phase.
Okay, Ben, so basically you want to develop a mobile app. I mean, how does that help us strategically?
Thank you very much, VP of Sales. We believe that this mobile application will drive us towards 2 items which are strategically important to the company. Number 1 is this will drive additional revenue for the company. We're looking to raise revenues by 25% in FY22, and this produces additional incremental revenue. Secondly is that the leadership team highlighted the fact that they wanted to make this product easier to sell, and we have a theory that that getting the mobile product into the hands of many users will actually increase sales on this, and we look forward to proving and working on that research in the plan phase. We ask that we push forward on that.
So how will you get this app onto users' phones?
Excellent, thank you very much, VP of Marketing. I've spoken to your Director of Marketing, Nadia. She's really good. She's working with you on several things here, and we think that we're proposing the banner ads on our portal to promote the particular application here. We think that that will very effectively get the application message to the user's hands, and it will be relatively affordable. We think that'll be our primary mode to do this, but this is work that would need to get done in the plan phase. We have some ideas, but if you push us into plan phase, we'll actually develop some plans around that.
Okay, so I can see how that won't be very expensive to do. That's good, but I'm still concerned about this 100K of revenue. It just doesn't seem like very much.
Yes, in plan we'll study that. If it can be more, it can be not, but I wanted to set the goals to be reasonable so that I didn't disappoint you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, let's vote on accepting Blue MVP as a conceive idea. It's time to vote. Sales?
Yeah, I'm with Roger on this one. I don't see the revenue from this. It's a no for me.
Marketing?
I'd have to say no. I'd like to see higher revenue.
Development?
Yeah, on behalf of development, finance, and product, I'm a yes.
Based on the vote, Blue MVP is not approved. Work is to stop on the Blue MVP concept without first returning to the gate review and getting approval. Let's move on to the last item on our agenda today. Next up, we have Director of Development Zen presenting database upgrades to pass from plan to develop. Zen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm here today to ask that the project database upgrade move from the plan phase into the develop phase. As I talked about the last time we were here, the project is tech debt. The one-pager summarizes what we are doing, and during this time in the plan phase, we proved out our assumptions and researched that our confidence in completing the project in bounds is very, very high. Based upon what we know today, I ask that you vote yes and advance product database into the develop phase, where we will actually start developing the particular solution here.
Do we have any questions for project database upgrade?
So Zen, first of all, you have a striking resemblance to Ben, I must say, but will this be the release that finally gives us this exchange of client data with Salesforce? I've been waiting for that feature for a long time.
Yes, Roger, that is a key feature requirement that we are committed to developing for this particular product, and we look forward to getting it to you.
Awesome.
Okay, if there are no other questions, let's vote. Sales?
Yes, I'm very excited about this. Please move forward.
Marketing?
At last, yes.
Development?
Yes, yes, and yes for development, finance, and product.
All right, based on the votes, database upgrade is approved to proceed into development. Okay, we have just completed the gate review meeting for August 12th, 2021. Let's review. Unicorn 1.3 is approved. Big Dog 1.1 is killed. Blue MVP is not advanced to plan. And database upgrade is approved. I will document these changes in an email and I'll send out to you before midnight tonight. Thank you all.
Right, so thanks, Nicole. All right, so we just wrapped up that mock gate review session. Hopefully you all got to see some of the inputs and the mechanics of it, and it could be applied at your organization. I want to say thanks to all of our participants. Everyone wins an Academy Award for their fantastic acting. Ken, I cede the floor back to you.
Thank you very, very much, Jake. Excellent, terrific. I'd love to take a quick break and do another poll here. The gate review process that we've just described is in a category of something we call a governance process. We would like to know whether or not your company uses something similar to the gate review process or has a governance process overall. The poll is open, and please vote yes or no. Rina.
Yeah, the poll is open. So we're going to leave it open for just a few more seconds here as we're getting responses. But this is often, and I see this at various maturities, whether you're at a startup or an enterprise, oftentimes we do find that companies do not always have a governance model. And it is absolutely crucial to getting all of the stakeholders, as we saw today, aligned on their commitments. So answers are getting in. So I'm just going to close it right now and share that 70%, almost 70% have said yes, that they do use some kind of governance process. So that is great news.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Hopefully there's some best practice that we can share during the Q&A. Would love to get some feedback on how this compares to others in the Q&A section here. Very, very quickly, you're going to receive a follow-up email from this particular webinar. In that webinar will be a link to a template for the one-pager document that we used during this process here. There will also be a link back to the previous May release where we talked about the product one-pager and road mapping, the section 1 of this two-part process. And so that will come to you in a follow-up email in this particular process. That would be great. One of the things that comes out in the process of using these product one-pagers and being a product manager that presents to these kinds of gate review processes is that fundamentally the process of being a product manager moves from being a cheerleader for a particular product to being kind of the orchestra leader of this particular product. And it's critically important that as you make that transition as a product manager, that you embrace the process of being a truth teller. We want you to work through the process of being square with the executives, understanding where the risks are, and making this happen here. Be the person at your company, be the product manager who executives look to as being the person who tells the truth. Be a truth teller. The strategy behind this two-part webinar was to encourage product managers to align product roadmaps to strategy from the particular company. Second part up is to use that product strategy in order to make quarterly news for your major products. You know, give your sales team, give your marketing team something to sell, something to market. Organize your product releases in ways that are easy for your company to talk about them. Companies that do frequent product introductions and talk about new innovations and products are the companies that people look to as innovators. Work at an innovative company. Chances are your development team is doing fantastic news in an agile environment. Lean forward, get them the recognition that they deserve. Next up is achieve the plan. Make big goals and achieve that particular plan here. And I promise you that if you align to strategy, make news, and achieve the plan, you will get promoted. This is a career path strategy for product managers that we work through here. Rina, the last poll.
So we have 2 more polls. So this one is just to get feedback, and we want to just know if a process built with product management one-pagers and the gate review be more useful in your company than the process used today. So please select one. I'll leave this one open. Ken, how do you feel about going through and answering some of these great questions that we got?
I think you asked the questions. Together we'll answer them.
All right, so I'm going to start. And by the way, please continue to put in your questions. We'll get through as many of these as we can. We have one here from Joe, who asks if you have any advice on how we can ensure that the process is not bypassed with the CEO and other executives pushing their own pet projects through.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah, so here we set up a responsible products. We work to it and we fund it in, and the CEO goes golfing with two buddies and comes in and whispers to the development manager to something else to do, and then suddenly the company starts moving in that direction. My best advice to a lot of clients and to the work that I've done individually is what you have to do is you have to do postmortems on these things. Getting the CEO to speak to the development manager isn't something that you're going to be able to stop. They're going to be able to do that. But what you can do is determine whether or not the batting average for that is positive or negative. If the development team works on something for 6 months because it was highlighted as a priority, and then it doesn't sell, we need that to be the data that proposes this governance process in the future to make it work here. CEOs are brilliant and bright people. They speak to interesting people all the time. They need to put that feedback into the product process and to make that system work here. But all too often, these ideas are quick, they're brief, they're not well thought out, and they are distracting to the company. If you don't debrief them, if you don't understand, if you don't do a retrospective on these ideas and understand where the failure point was, then you're going to encourage this to happen more in the future. So do a retrospective. Do debriefs on these things, and talk about the fact that this isn't leading towards bigger business.
Right, it's another opportunity as well for you to build accountability throughout the organization. And this is managing up in a lot of ways. This is also managing up. All right, do you have any advice, Ken, on how often these gate reviews should happen? And I think the answer kind of changes depending on what size company you are. There's a question here from Lisa, who works in medical devices, and the time to market can be years. So how does she think about gate reviews and doing that frequently?
So first of all, I just want to reiterate that these are 30-minute to 60-minute meetings with product managers presenting and getting votes in 5 minutes. Okay, these are not long status update meetings. These are very specific kinds of meetings here. And I've worked at companies that have 6 products going through development. Well, 6 products through 6 gates is, relatively speaking, a relatively high cadence to see what's going on here. So the companies that I've worked at, it's generally a twice monthly meeting that lasts 60 minutes or less. The cadence there is products were taking 12 to 18 months to get to marketplace. So we were filling up an agenda every 2 weeks. If you've got longer, and I understand medical is much longer, if that's the case, then maybe it's a monthly meeting. But don't forget that frequency is tied to how strategic you are about running these meetings as executive friendly. If they happen too often and they go hours long, your executives will get bored and they won't come.
That's right. I have another question here. Ken, did you want to go over a couple more slides? Because I think we do want to get some more feedback.
Yes, I do. One more poll, please.
Thank you. So please, if you could help us know how helpful was this webinar in giving you actionable tips to make your executive gate reviews more effective and strategic. And we'll continue with some more questions. We actually have a lot from this audience, very engaged audience. And there's a question here from Abhilash, and he or she asks, how can a gatekeeper add value to the presentation done when it's done 72 hours in advance? So how does a gatekeeper add value?
Generally speaking, that 72-hour gatekeeper review forces the product manager to not be putting this together on the bus on the way to work on the last day. Putting a product manager in front of executives to make executive level decisions about million-dollar outcomes of the company is not something to be taken lightly. And that process of having that 72-hour review early with the gatekeeper means that the product manager has to be thoughtful and strategic in the use of how it is that they work this through. It's just simply a best practice. We've done gate reviews without the role of gatekeeper, and we find that those meetings get longer and the executives get less interested and they become less useful over time, and an alternative process to what's happening here. But if the executives see this process see product managers presenting information which is executive ready, which is strategic, and which is vetted by their bosses, then this is a meeting that, and it only lasts 30 minutes, then this is a product meeting that they will come to. So the role of that gatekeeper is just simply to ensure that the product manager is ready to present to executives. You know, product managers report to peers, report to VP and sales. We're okay winging that stuff, but you can't wing when you report to executives about an investment that the company's making towards revenue for next year. So that gatekeeper just simply takes it and makes it executive friendly, which I think is incredibly valuable for the product managers.
Right, and that 72 hours really forces the product managers to get ready in advance. As we know, if you don't hold on to that, then winging it doesn't come out well, right? So we have a question here from Richard, and it's a fair one because again, we're talking to companies of all sizes, and in his company, it's a small company, and so he says, "Well, I just don't see killing a launch. So how do you at that stage, at that phase, what would you do to convert that project?"
Okay, so it's interesting. You know, we actually, as we did rehearsals on this over the past couple of days, there was one person on the team who kept coming back and said, you can't kill a project as it's going into the qualify phase. You just can't do it. It just doesn't happen in companies. And I feel strongly that you have to be able to do that. What quickly becomes apparent through this gate process is that you don't have enough resources to do all of the things that you want to do. Okay, so if you lack resources to do the things that are really important, those resources have to come from somewhere. And the places that they come from are investments that you've made, which are stalled or not going anywhere or are not going to deliver the kinds of results to it. And it's about making a difference. It's about not turning the crank. It's about acting strategically. If you have a project which is slipping and going back for multiple out of bounds reviews, and the work never seems to finish, and you have another project here which you know you can turn into $5 million of revenue in 2022, be brave. Embrace the change. So I push back on that one a lot. I like the executives that say, okay, this has been out of bounds 2 months in a row. This isn't working. Let's get those resources on a project that is more important. It is not intuitive, but until you get to that point, you're not aligning to strategy.
You know, we've had several breakthrough moments when we do this with our clients, and the product managers realize that they are above their product. They are not there to fall in love with their product. And if the product is in the launch for a very good reason, they are doing their job, right? So that's all you need to do is like, what is really your job? Your job at the core is to make sure your product is successful. If you and your executives have identified how it could fail, don't launch it. Don't add resources to that. Pivot, direct those elsewhere in the company.
Yeah, exactly. And imagine being the product manager that is so confident in the value that you add to the company that even if the product gets kicked out from underneath your feet, you know you're going to get assigned to a more strategically important project at the company. Do not be afraid of being associated with products that get voted down. There's a million reasons why projects become less important to executives over time. Higher priority projects coming on board, different priorities. If you're great at what it is that you do and your project becomes less important than something else and you get put on the more important thing, it's a winning strategy all around. It feels funny, but it's exactly the right thing to have happen.
Yeah, and we have found in our research at 280 Group that directors and VPs of product have experience sunsetting products, right? Sunsetting them. And this is something that a lot of people starting out in their career, they don't have that practice and they don't have that built up credibility of being able to say, I know when this is not the most valuable allocation of the company's resources. So absolutely do it. So we have questions here from Darsh, and I think we kind of answered this one a little bit, but any other suggestions on getting buy-in from executives to actually have the gate review process and to do the pre-reading? That's another big one.
I'm sorry, and to do the previewing, is that what you said?
The pre-reading, to actually come prepared. Like, how do you make this happen?
It's interesting. Usually, so first of all, when I go in as part of the 280 group, it generally means that the organization is looking for something different. So sometimes we get pulled. But if you are one of the people outside the company and you're trying to figure out how to adopt this yourself, what I would suggest is you need a executive level sponsor of this idea. Okay, you need to get the VP of product or the VP of sales or the VP of marketing to say, hey, I'm really frustrated with the way this happens and it's never coordinated and it's never very good. And you as a person inside the product organization need to show them this webinar or show them the concept of the one pager or show them the rules that we've got for this particular process and show them that there are other ways in the way that we do it here at the company today. If you get one level executive sponsor who buys into this particular idea, it becomes their job to actually sell it horizontally to the other executives. So if you are that person who's looking to have this change within your organization, try to get your senior level product executive plus one other executive to just simply recognize that that the way that you're doing it today isn't effective and that there are better ways to do that. And this gate review process is a great way to do it, and there are other ways to do it. But if you get that executive level sponsor and you get them to believe that, you know, what we're doing isn't working and there's better ways, this process can really help. Keep it simple, keep the meeting short, and empower the gatekeeper to be great at what it is that they do.
That's right. That's a great answer, Ken. You know, we have a couple common questions here around the process of the gate review, and it has to do with, well, what happens if an executive raises, so this one's from Aparna, if the executives raise a point that requires one-on-one follow-up, right? So, and I just want to say that the gate review is a meeting when you are a product manager and you are great at aligning stakeholders. It's just one of the many meetings that you're going to have with all the different stakeholders, right? It's not just that you're there at this meeting for the first time. So what would you, do you suggest that the gate review process in this question be repeated if there is some follow-up as a result of this meeting? So.
Yes, there are times where the executives aren't willing to vote yes yet. Maybe they have a question and they say pending the results of a particular answer, they can do that. At which case you register that with the gatekeeper. You say, Ken, you know, in the meeting minutes, it says, you know, Ken, the product manager needs to get this answer to the VP of sales before midnight on Thursday. If that doesn't happen, then the answer is no, and the project falls into limbo. So you can potentially do that. There's also a time where the executives are going to look at each other and say, we're not ready to vote yes on this, but we need to go into the coffee room and have a discussion about this. And the executives need to go and they need to arm wrestle about this particular project. That's okay. You can put a timer on it and you can say, okay, you guys have 24 business hours or 24 hours to vote on this, and you can talk about this offline. That's just up to the gatekeeper to then follow up and say, what was the vote of that particular project on here? This is a process that I'd like to talk about. You know, it has walls, it has rules, it has best practices. It does bend a little bit here, and bending to accommodate executives that want to talk to each other one-on-one is a perfectly acceptable way to do that.
And Colin asked us about the postmortem that you mentioned, very similar. Would you invite executives to that?
I would invite executives to the presentation of the results of the postmortem, of the results of the retrospective here, to talk about your batting average. You know, when a project comes in from product management, its success rate is 80%. When a project comes in from an executive whisper to the VP, it has a success rate of 10%. I would want to share that information here, but I think retrospectives are not executive friendly meetings sometimes, but you can do work in the retrospective and then take that to the executives later. But if you're a small company, rules are completely different. Bring the executives in.
I definitely agree with that. All right.
Try to keep Rina out of an executive postmortem here. Just try. Go ahead.
I'll take the results though. All right. So we will do one more question, you know, this one comes from Josh, and yes, it has to do with us doing a mock presentation here. But he points out that there was an unnaturally high level of trust by the exec in the data presented, right? And in his experience, the executives will want to spend a lot more time in the trust but verify mode. So really understanding the 200K marketing spend. And so how do you address this need of executives to get more information?
You know, that's really interesting, and it's a great question. Thank you. A couple of things here. First of all, we talked about the fact that the gate review creates consensus among the organizations that are needed to bring this process through. So if suddenly the VP of marketing is coming back and saying, you know, where'd that budget for $200,000 come up from? If I'm doing my job right as the product manager, I know Nadia and I've worked with her and I know what her particular plans are. So when I get hit by Roger, the VP of marketing, and says, I don't believe your forecast, I say, hey, I understand you don't believe mine, talk to Nadia. So we actually line this up so that we do this. I don't go to a gate review process as a product manager and present information that my peer on that team hasn't given me as to report as data. So just FYI, I'm not representing the product here. I'm the orchestra leader. There's a flute player, there's a bass player. All of those people have different roles throughout the organizations, and I call on them to answer the questions from their VPs.
Right. There are moments in these gate reviews where they're in the room, so they're, you know, they're able to also to know what questions are being asked and to be prepared. Another point is we're talking about a one pager here, right?
And boy, does that process make the executives wary of asking the wrong question. Just FYI, it trains them really quickly to know that they're about to get an answer from their own direct report.
That's right. And this is just the one pager. So what the data that we're showing here, there's other data and there's other information that is gathered for your product or project. So it's not to say that this isn't necessarily verifiable or verified by the executives in advance either. All right. Thank you all for your great questions today. It's what really makes these webinars work. We really, really enjoy all of the engagement that we've had today. And this was really fun, Ken. Again, I love doing these.
Yeah, I sent an email and said, can I turn this into a play on Monday? And I got a lot of yeses back in a big hurry. So this was a lot of fun. I hope it was entertaining too, and informative.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us this morning. If you're interested in transforming your team, you can get expert help for your team on these strategic gate reviews. Again, to 80 Group, we provide custom solutions. We provide custom training curriculum and workshops just like the gate review you saw here today. So make your team more effective and contact us. Again, thank you so much, Ken, for this wonderful workshop on gate reviews. For the listeners, we will have a link to the recording after this has ended. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Be safe, be well, be strategic, guys. Thank you.